Finally, an answer to the age-old question, which comes first, the chicken or the egg roll? Easy. Just eat whichever one's closest. The Sensation Salad and Filet Sandwich Meal are back at Zaxby's. Both feature our famous hand-breaded chicken, crispy wontons, Asian slaw, and citrus vinaigrette. And each comes with its very own egg roll for a limited time only at Zaxby's. Try them with fried pickles while supplies last.
From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up! Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, proudly presented by Zaxby's. Indescribably good. The sensation is still going on at your local area Zaxby's all over the country, actually. It's kind of cool to see that little chicken restaurant of ours. Commercial breaks running during a nationally televised game on ABC Saturday night. That was pretty cool. I saw that several times, Corey. What'd you feel about that, huh?
That was great. I thought that was the best part of the game, of the whole Saturday night viewing experience.
This is Wake Up Warchant. We were part of the Warchant.com family. Use the promo code Warchant30 for 30 free days of access to the ultimate Seminole sports source. It's Jacksonville State Week. The Gamecocks from Jacksonville, Alabama, I would assume, coming to town on Saturday, 4 p.m. Corey, keys to victory.
Protect the ball, win the special teams battle, obviously, ride momentum. From the second half touchdown you got against Miami, ride that momentum, and then obviously keep the crowd into it. Yeah. Those are probably my four keys to victory. Oh, a pass rush. Okay. Maybe get a stop. Don't give up 5 straight touchdown drives. There's a lot of keys actually now that I think about it, but those are the main ones.
All right, Florida State falls 52-10 against Miami in what is maybe being called rock bottom for the football program, at least here in the modern era. I mean, is it disrespectful to call the Bowden, the early 70s, the modern era, mid-70s? Is that, if you're like 70 years old and you're listening to this podcast, you probably get upset if I'm not referring to that as the modern era, but, college football has changed a lot.
I would say I would go Bill Peterson as probably the modern era. Once they had, Ron Sellers and Tenzi and Gary Huff and those guys, Biletnikoff, I think that's when Florida State was kind of put on the scene a little bit nationally, and then obviously it became something else with Bowden. So, rock bottom since I've been alive, I guess. Who knows, man? Who knows what rock bottom is anymore?
52-10, Miami wins. It is the most points scored by either team in the rivalry. Not the largest margin of victory, though. Both teams have beat the other 47-0. 1976, Bobby Bowden's first year, they sustained that loss. And then, 97? Bobby repaid the favor. The long game, nice way to build up the revenge. 517 yards of offense for Miami to 330 for Florida State. Miami was 14 of 20 on 3rd and 4th downs. They did whatever they wanted for the better part of the entire game to Florida State. Florida State once again had a pretty good opening drive, and then after that things quickly unraveled offensively. Defensively, they just never could get any kind of pass rush, as Corey mentioned. Couldn't get off the field, couldn't create turnovers, couldn't pressure De'Aaron King, couldn't stay close to Miami receivers to put pressure on them. Just overall, a really, really horrible football game played by your favorite football team. To me, I don't know. I watched that Louisville game as a fan, and it hurt me deeply in 2016. The 18 game against Clemson was I was kind of numb. I didn't really feel all that well about where the program was going 3 or 4 games into Willie Taggart's tenure. And then when that happened, it was just, I don't know if that was kind of a real underlying moment to show that this was not going the right direction. People say that this was worse than the Louisville game. I think to me, the Louisville game was surprising to me. The 2018 Clemson game, I gave Florida State no shot in that game. Saturday night, going into that game, I said the under on the over-under. By the way, we'll get to the winners later on here. So I did not think Miami was going to score 52 points, but I just didn't feel good about Florida State's defense, and I did not like Florida State's offense. I thought Miami was going to win the game going away, but I wouldn't envision 52-10 But at the end of the day, it makes sense because of everything we just mentioned. Florida State couldn't do anything defensively. They couldn't pressure the quarterback. They couldn't defend receivers. They couldn't tackle well. I don't know, Corey. Is it worse? Is it surprising? I mean, how do you factor all that into to make your overall takeaway from that game Saturday?
I mean, it's just it's revealing. It's you could look at the Georgia Tech game and say, man, maybe if the quarterback made some plays and you beat, maybe Georgia Tech's better than we think, and you were in a close game and you held them to 16 points and you showed some fight a little bit there at the end on defense. Yeah, man, there's no fight on this team at all. It might develop it. That's what Norvell's trying to do. That really, honestly, I think is job one. Well, job one is to get players in here. Job two is to develop some sort of fighting instinct because it's not there at all. And, when you think about that, when you think about those games you were talking about, yeah, it was embarrassing to lose to Louisville like that. Embarrassing / surprising, but it was also to a Heisman winner who then went on to win the NFL MVP. Like, nobody stopped that dude. And then those Clemson games, yes, those were appalling. They didn't even compete, 59-3. Then last year you're down 42-0 in the third quarter, just not even competing. But again, that's a team that I believe won a national championship and then finished second the next year. I don't know if Miami's even that good. And they just obliterated you. Like you were, they didn't do anything like that at the UAB. And that's what's so, it's a stark slap. I was going to say reminder, and then I switched to slap in the face, and I don't know that you can have a stark slap in the face, but we'll go ahead and say it. It's a stinging slap in the face to just how far this program has fallen. It's one thing to say, oh, yeah, Clemson's a lot better. It's another thing to say, man, Miami's this much better. Like in 1 year, Miami, the team that lost to Louisiana Tech 14-0 in the bowl game 10 months ago, just put up 52 on you and probably could have put up 70. It's frustrating because you wonder, okay, how long is it going to take? It's certainly not going to be this year. I think the quick fix we understood was after the game one loss, we understood, okay, it's going to be a while until this team's championship caliber. Okay, well, how long until it's at least competitive? How long until it's a program you can be proud of? Or not a program. I know everybody that listens to this show is proud of the Florida State program in the history of the tradition. How long until you have a team you can be proud of? Because it's been a long time. It's been since Keith Gavin returned to kick against Michigan that you've been proud of a Florida State football team. And Nooney Murray housed it. That's it. Think about that. Think about that. Think about how Nooney Murray's life has changed. That's how long it's been. We didn't even know who his grandmom was. We had never seen her on a video board the last time that you felt proud to be a Florida State football fan of the team you were cheering. And Saturday night was just another low in a long string of lows. It doesn't even matter really how it got here now. It really doesn't. I mean, we can talk about it. It's fine. It's fodder. But how long is it going to take to get back? Is there any hope at all that it'll be before Brady's out of high school? Brady, by the way, is 12. Will Brady be out of high school before Florida State is a quality football program again? Will he be out of – maybe it'll be till he's in the 9th grade. Maybe it'll be when he's not even out of middle school. Maybe it'll happen that fast. But right now, there is nothing redeeming about this football team. Nothing. The quarterback doesn't need to take another meaningful snap. I think you have the hope of Chubba that he can provide a little excitement. But you got South Bend in 2 weeks, man. That's going to be another hide your eyes, don't tell me the final score debacle. And what happens to these players then? Because a whole lot of quit on this roster. And I should say that there was a moment there in the third quarter where they were fighting. They played hard. But it's Florida State. So, of course, Marvin Wilson makes a great effort play on third down. Somehow Miami just throws a screen pass on 3rd and 20 and almost gets the first down. The defensive tackle has to come from 17 yards away to tackle the kid to keep him from getting a first down, but he tackles him helmet to helmet, gets kicked out for the Jacksonville State game, and then they go down the field and score a touchdown because, of course. So there were effort plays here and there. And there were guys that I think you can build around. Stephen Dix Jr., Toafili. But by and large, I think what Saturday night was a head-shaking, soul-sucking, but mainly an illuminating game that says, okay, it's going to be till 2022 probably at the earliest until this is a program that can contend for anything of note. And you're just going to have to wear these. You're going to have to be patient. You're going to have to wear it, and you're going to have to hope that you see strides, because Saturday night was about as ugly a football game as you can ever see.
Great programs, once great programs, that fell on hard times, then regained their glory. Did the architect of those rebuilds, though, have this horrid of a loss, though, on their resume? Like, I know Saban lost to Louisiana Monroe on homecoming his first season at Alabama. Ed Orgeron lost to Troy, homecoming, first season, I think, full-time at LSU, or at least it was 17 when it happened. So it was 2 years before he won a national title. Man, you just – who loses 52-10? What kind of coaching staffs lose 52-10?
I wonder – I was going to go back and look if Norvell's ever been part of a game of a team that lost by 42 points. Now, he can say, hey, suckers, I was in Tallahassee. That's on you. I still haven't seen one of those up close. But I think the counter to that will be wait 2 weeks, because you're going to. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure all of them do. All of them. Bowden's second game, they lost 47-0
to Miami.
And to Miami, and not a good Miami team. And but that was 1976. Things are a little different, but still,
they went on the road and beat like a ranked Boston College team though that season. So there was like moments of redemption.
Yeah, no. So
I don't see any redemption coming this season.
So what? Well, yeah, but they didn't back then either. So what happened with Bowden was his first game. I think they went to Memphis State. This was 76, coming off a 3-year just awful run. They lose at Memphis State, but they play hard. I think they impressed some folks. They showed that there was something to be positive about. Then they go play a Miami team that I think was like won one game the year before or 2 games the year before, and they're feeling good. Like, okay, we're going to make some strides from week 1 to week 2, and they get obliterated 47-0. And then you're like, I'm sure Florida State fans back then were like, what in the world? So it's no different. We got Bobby Bowden. It's no different. The very next week, they go to Oklahoma, and I think are 44-point underdogs. Like, this is Barry Switzer wreaking havoc on the city of Norman time of Oklahoma when they were awesome. Mid-70s, just every running back they can pay for is coming to Norman. And the Florida State's only down by a score in the fourth quarter. I think they only lose 24-9, which, they covered the spread by 30 points. And I remember after the game, Barry Switzer was like, we completely got out-coached. We completely got out-coached by that coaching staff, and Bobby Bowden quipped, well, I'll trade my coaches for his players, which is just great Bowden. But you could see in week 3 that there was something with Bowden after coming off that. But again, I don't even know if that's relevant 44 years later. It's a completely different sport, so probably not. I was just more of a history lesson than anything else, because who wants to talk about the current state of affairs? Yes, to answer your question, almost certainly there have been. I mean, in 97, Florida, I think Butch Davis would have been the coach of that 97 Miami team, right, that came up here to Tallahassee and lost 47-0.
Oh, you're on probation.
No, but I mean, it's still, he suffered it.
Yeah.
It was a 47-0 debacle where their quarterback got sacked into the goalpost. I don't know that, when you think about, I don't know that losing at home to Louisiana Monroe when you're Alabama, that's probably a little less embarrassing than 52-10. But they're in the same ballpark. Yeah. And then the next, but I'm certainly not assuming that Mike Norvell's going to have a Nick Saban type turnaround. He's not. It's just not going to work that quickly at Florida State. But some serious stuff has to be changed. And the coaching staff, I don't know how you attack it. That's why I don't get paid any money to coach football, because I have no idea what you do if you're Mike Norvell. I don't know if you just lay into these guys, if you quit on them. Not quit on them, but basically say, I'm through with you. I'm not doing this with you guys anymore. Or you just wear it and you play your young guys, understanding that it's going to be a disaster of a year. And, I don't know that you can blame Norvell for plenty of things over the last 2 weeks. They have not been – you just can't argue that they're well coached. But this is so much deeper than that, right, man? This is a team that's not even their first 42-point loss. There were decades in Tallahassee where Florida State teams didn't lose by 42 points. And this team's lost how many? 5 of them? Guys on this roster have been a part of 4 or 5 of those games where they get down and they stay down. And that's just what they do. And those guys are going to be cycling off the roster soon. So you got to build with guys that don't accept that. But also you got to get better players and you got to coach them better. So it's going to be a long process, and that proved it. I don't know that De'Aaron King is worth 42 points. He's a nice player, but come on, man. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Pat Mahomes. And you just got completely and utterly annihilated.
There's so much to go and pivot off of from that pivot. There we go. Got it in there. I mean, there's already a part of, like, there's like we call it FSU Twitter, I guess. We should probably call it FSU YouTube as well, maybe. Everybody that subscribes to our YouTube page. Shout out. Appreciate y'all most of the time. And there's people that are literally all they'll comment on a video is 19 more games. Basically saying you only gave Taggart 21. How many games are you going to give this guy? So when we talk about this is going to take a while. Like, it's going to take a while, okay. But if it continues to look like this in games 17, 18, or 19, he's going to get the same fate as Willie Taggart.
Which is crazy to me. No, of course not.
He's not.
Number one,
he won't.
Of course not. They can't afford it, number one. They're not going to be paying 2 head coaches to not coach their football team. But as bad as the program was that Willie Taggart took over, this program is worse. And you that has to be part of the equation. The recruiting was a debacle after Taggart's first year. There was nothing the last 2 years. Look at that 19 class. You even texted about it.
Well, can I pause it right there then? That's my whole thing with people talking about let's just go to a youth movement. This roster, the youth consists of a 2018 recruiting class that Willie had no time to recruit, then a 2019 class that was being recruited off the resume of the worst season in 40-something years at Florida State, and then the 2020 class, which Mike Norvell had 2 weeks to put together too. So I just don't know where this sort of scrap everybody, throw the youth out there. Like, where? Obviously, you're just kind of conceding 2-9, 3-8, regardless.
Yeah. But I mean, aren't you doing that anyway? Like, what are you gonna do? Play James Blackman? Is that gonna guarantee some wins?
No, I'm not saying that, but I just don't like people. So what? Like Emmett and Leonard Warner, you're done. Like Marvin, are you done? Janaris, are you done?
11 is done. Yeah, Marvin's not done. I wouldn't do that unless Marvin just doesn't want to play anymore. Which, I mean, look, man, that could certainly be a possibility here coming up soon with these guys that have pro futures to be like, what am I doing here? Why am I going to do this for this team? I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but does Nasruddin, is he rushing to get back to this team?
Right.
Kendo, although Kendo isn't. Kendo needs to come back and put something on film. Asante, but this, Willie took over a program that obviously had some very serious faults in it, but they didn't take games and turn them into routes so easily until Willie got there. You've now got a program that, again, did not have a quarterback recruit for two. This is the quarterbacks. We're still playing a Jimbo Fisher recruit. Florida State's still playing a Jimbo Fisher recruit at quarterback. So, you've got that issue. You've got the offensive line issue that still hasn't been rectified. And then also you've got a roster full of dudes that just take it. Just sit there and take it. And that's not on Mike Norvell. Part of that is on this team was not well coached for the past 2.5 years. I'm digging back into Jimbo's. And I don't want to get back into this. Just to my point that no, there hasn't been a precedent set that, okay, you're only going to give them 21 wins. Number one, game number 21 for Willie Taggart looked the exact same as game number 1, with a whole lot of BS in between too. And I'm talking about awful blowouts, embarrassing blowouts, also embarrassing end-of-game decisions, embarrassing folds, embarrassing meltdowns. All that was crammed into 21 games. So I guess I should say yes. If game 21 looks like game number 1, and in the middle you have not only awful beatdowns, no improvement really anywhere, 2 new coordinators, because the first coordinator you hired couldn't work with him. 2 new O-line coaches, coaching a man down, not having a clue on special teams, then yes, they're similar. Otherwise, he's gonna have to have time. And whether that's fair or not, it's the reality. Florida State can't be in the business of firing guys every 21 games. But he was fired for a reason, because the program was on the downslope when Willie Taggart took over. He got a bulldozer and pushed it off the cliff into the ocean. So now it's a salvage process for Mike Norvell, man. He's got to go find the car and then dig it up and try to put it on and it ain't close. Their scuba divers are still looking for it. I'm going to drag this analogy for the whole show. They're still looking for it. They found some fish down there. So what's fish in the ocean? What are we looking for? Snapper? Are they in the ocean?
Yeah.
Marlins?
Yes. Cobia.
So they've seen some things, barracuda, but they haven't found the car yet, quite obviously, unless it's the thing that's on fire. So he's got even more work to do than Willie Taggart had. And so I personally believe Willie Taggart exacerbated a problem. So that's the difference. If Mike Norvell exacerbates it and they keep losing by 50 points, sure. But I don't foresee that happening.
Yeah,
but it's going to be a long year, man. It's going to be a long year. And I thought Herb Street said something interesting. I want to get your take on it. I don't even know if you were watching it at the end. And he was trying to be nice, telling Florida State fans, look, we get it. I think Fowler was giddy. But Herb Street was trying to be nice about where Florida State is and what it has to do. And he talked about Norvell, and he's like, look, they got to go recruit football players. Mike Norvell and his staff need to go recruit football players. They don't need to go to the rivals' camps and see who runs the 4.4 the fastest, who has the highest vertical, who looks the best in shorts, who has the highest bench press. They need to go find guys that can play football, and enough with the combine All-Americans. And I thought that was really interesting, because part of me thinks, okay, who told Herb Street that? Is that Herb Street's opinion, or is that somebody maybe telling Herb Street, and I'm talking about maybe he has a 30-minute conversation with Norvell off the record? And
Norvell, production meeting kind of stuff.
Yes. Yeah. And that's where because absolutely, that's what you need. You got to, look, 5 stars are great. The 5 stars aren't coming right now. It's just, why would you? If your kid was a 5-star, not you, but you, dear listener, if your kid was a 5-star linebacker right now or a 5-star wide receiver, you would not be coming to Florida State. So know where you are right now. Go find good football players. Go find Toa Feelies. He wasn't that highly rated. Go find guys like that, guys that will just be the guys that you need to get this thing back. Just get it to Memphis. Get this program back to where Memphis is in a year or two, and then build from there with the iconic brand that is Florida State. But until then, you just got to make it Memphis. You've got to go get – I'm telling you, man, and people roll their eyes at that. Would 2019 Memphis have lost to Miami 52-10?
I don't
you know
think
what I mean?
So. Yeah.
No, of course not. So he can build a roster with not great recruits that can compete. But it's not this roster. And so there's got to be a big, big overhaul. And that's why I think playing the guys that you brought in. I'm not talking the 19 kids, sure, some of them you can play. I don't remember what class Cam McDonald is. But that kid can play.
He was 18.
Okay, he's a guy that you can build around, I think. Helton, people like that. But Thompson had a almost catch there in the first half there, a big third down, and then almost got killed.
He drew targeting call.
He did. That was the biggest play he's made all year. And seriously, man, Tamarian Terry is hurt. We think it might have had something to do with that huge hit he took in the Georgia Tech game. Tamarian Terry gets almost his head knocked off because of a terrible throw in the middle of the field. It's not that he's just bad. He's getting receivers hurt. It has to stop. So anyway, all that being said, you play the guys that have shown that they can play, that they believe in you. You're going to take your lumps, but you're taking your lumps anyway. So play as many guys that are ready from the 2020 class as you can, guys that you really believe in. Go lose by 50 to Notre Dame too, because it's happening whether you play them or not. So go play those guys, let them learn, let them get that experience, and then by the end of the year, they'll be better, and then you hope by next year they're a core that you can build around. and start winning football games again. Man, that was a lot of words. I'm sorry, listeners. I need a drink. I need a drink right now. A drink of water. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Get your minds right.
Wake up. So, like, what do you tell like Bavion thanks but no thanks? Like Thomas Schrader's going to try to play. That's why Thomas Schrader looks. I'm looking at Pro Football Focus. They put him down as left tackle and Robert Scott as right tackle. So none of those guys even played on the interior. I don't know. Maybe you groom one of those guys to maybe push Darius Washington for his job because Darius Washington looked every bit as bad as a left tackle has the last 2 or 3 years at Florida State on Saturday night against Miami. The one silver lining from that game really was Devontae Love Taylor actually played his rear end off.
Oh, did he? I was going to ask who. What were the grades for the O-line?
Devontae Taylor graded out at 85 pass blocking, 76 run block.
Let's go, DLT.
Yeah, so he had Cam McDonald was the top overall graded. I shouldn't say overall. He was the top graded offensive player. Otherwise, the offensive line was quite forgettable. Other than Maurice
Was
Smith,
there anybody graded lower than Blackman?
No, Blackman was the lowest graded offensive
player.
player.
And here's the thing, man. Look, that's great for DLT, but that doesn't give you a whole lot of hope for next year, by the way, with the O-line, because he ain't going to be here. Oh, no, he will be, right? He'll get a year back.
He could, but what? Again, to your
what's
point,
he going to do?
man?
But Marvin's got an NFL career. I don't know that Devontae Love Taylor does. So he might want to come back and play football and get his doctorate or master's or
I don't know.
Whatever.
I think he came to Florida State to help grow and create a professional career. And I think if he grades out well enough and you're here, you put it on tape, you slow down some of these guys from Miami, you slow down maybe Clemson.
That's right.
Notre Dame, you'll be able to get a
So who else? What were the other grades on the O-line?
O-line, I was about to jump over to the defense, but I'll continue there. Dante Lucas graded out 33 on pass blocking. That was the worst of any offensive lineman who started. Bavion, it's weird how this all works. Bavion pass block 74, run block 63, but his grade was 52. So I guess maybe those penalties, they really deduct a lot from the grade on the scoring there. But, yeah, Darius Washington grade out at 44. He pass blocked 25. So you're starting offensive lineman pass blocking, grade out at 85. That's Devontae Love Taylor.
That's crazy. Good job, DLT.
68, Maurice Smith.
Okay.
33, Dante Lucas. 25, Darius Washington. And who's the other guard that usually starts? Let me see here. They have the little.
Well, I know Brady Scott played some too.
Yeah.
Well, Bavion plays a guard too.
74.
Yeah. Well, so that's not terrible. Look, Dante Lucas, man, get your mind right, dude.
That photo
you need to be
slumped was sad.
Yeah, you need to be a leader, dude. You still got 2 or 3 years. Well, you don't have you're not leaving after next year if you're going to be getting 33s against a defensive with a pulse. So he needs to take a step because he's too good and too talented and too strong to be dominated like that. But what I was going to say was going back to Blackman. There is just simply no excuse now in 2020 for Florida State. Literally, they won't have the best quarterback on the field this week coming up, maybe. Like, it is such a disadvantage. And what do you think the point differential is? What if those two quarterbacks switch teams? What do you think the score is?
Derek King and James? Ooh, boy. Man, wow. Yeah, I don't know. Like, maybe Florida State wins like a 23-20 game?
So I don't know that that's true, but because there's still too much. It's not all James Blackman. There's still too much.
James Blackman might not be getting. He won't be getting rushed if he's playing for Miami. His offensive line is going to block for him, so he'll probably be able to find a receiver open at least.
But it's easier to rush. It's harder to rush a guy that can run, and Derek King would change everything.
Well, it just feels like everybody's been thrown to wide open receivers at Florida State for 8 quarters this year. So maybe James Blackman would benefit from that.
Well, maybe. But you also have to see them.
Yeah.
I can promise you, if you watch the all 11 for these all 22s on these Florida State games, there are dudes running open that are just not seen. You cannot convince me that Dillingham and Norvell cannot devise an offense that gets people open in space, gets people open in the middle of the field, gets people open downfield. And they are just not seen. It is it's just awful. So his days are done. I just can't, unless the other guys just can't do it physically because they're hurt. There's no reason for James Blackman to ever take another meaningful snap at Florida State. Look, I've qualified it enough. Good kid, great teammate, bleeds garnet and gold. It's not any good. Just not any good anymore. If he ever was. He's a shell of what he was, and I don't even know if he was that good back then. But he's a shell of that guy, through no fault of his own, really. We all know the story with the coordinators and the coaches and the offensive line. It would wreck almost anyone, and it has certainly wrecked James Blackman. But he is wrecked.
Yeah, the pick he threw in the third quarter, he locked in on the right and went to the seam. And on the left side, like Cam and Ontario, I think Cam was in the slot, and then Ontario was out wide. Ontario runs a post, and then I think Cam ran it out. Both those guys were absolutely wide open. Now there's this still shot that's going out that literally the ball is already 5 yards downfield. And everyone's like, look, they were wide open. It's like, well, you can't use that as your evidence. But yeah, I mean, if he would have looked left at any point when he dropped back, because he had enough time on that play for that to develop, that he would have been able to make it. But I don't think that was his primary read. He doesn't trust his eyes. He doesn't trust his line. So he locked into his number one, primary target, and then Miami was able to pick it off easily. So
yeah, because he darts it, 60 miles an hour, so it pops up in the air, and it's an easy interception. So it's such a huge disadvantage at that position. And it shouldn't matter if your quarterback is any good. Your defense should still play. Case in point, Georgia. I'm telling you, folks, I don't know if you watched the first half of the Georgia-Arkansas game, but that kid that started for Georgia made James Blackman look like John Elway. Like he was awful. I won't even get into it. He was terrible. But the score at half was 7-5 because Georgia's defense still fought. And then they put in a backup that essentially is their fourth-string quarterback, and he lit up Arkansas, and they won by a lot. But Florida State doesn't have the kind of mindset that Georgia has right now. So if those defenders, after they played hard those first two drives, they just can't get off the field. Part of that is just they don't have a pass rush. I don't understand when you blitz 5 why you wouldn't cover the guys on the quick routes. It makes no sense that it's so easy to just find somebody in space. So easy. But it is. But they did play hard, right? Wouldn't you say that in those first two drives? I mean, Miami converted 3 third downs or 4 third downs on each of them, a fourth down on each of them. So they made Miami work. But once you get down 14-3 or 21-3, and you know who your quarterback is, man, that's a wrap. This team is not going to fight through that. So give them something to fight for. Give them some hope on that side of the ball.
I think
also, the defense is terrible.
Yeah, I think surrendering the third down conversions over and over is more deflating as a defense than you're realizing that your quarterback's not going to score any points. But yeah, I just
it all works hand in hand, though, right?
Yeah.
Like there are, you know what I mean? Like they I'm not saying that that's that it's acceptable, and I'm not saying that it's something that I condone, but it's reality. I mean, they know more football than any of us know, and they know that guy's not going to lead them to a win. They know it. So middle of the second quarter, down by 18 points, he just had another 3 and out. It's like, okay, well, I'm still going to play hard, but it's not as much juice in me because what does it matter?
Well, the backup.
It's not how it should be, but it's it's how it is with this particular program right now.
Well, the backup quarterback also threw was it a pick 6? Was it Jalen Phillips? Did he return that for a touchdown? Jordan Travis is just absolutely horrific.
No. What he was trying to throw that away.
I don't care, man. We talk about James
what does it matter? What does it matter?
Well, this is what matters. I mean, ultimately, in my opinion, man, not to go hot take Harry on this show, man. If Chubba Purdy doesn't work out, this coaching staff's not going to work out because this season will be so disastrous. If they have to keep rolling James Blackman out there or have Tate Rodemaker be the quarterback, that they won't get Luke Altmaier. They're not going to get Luke Altmaier next year. You're not going to go 2-8, and you're not going to get Luke Altmaier if you go 2-8 or 2-9, however many games they're going to play this season. And the thing that concerned me about the Mike Norvell hire was, man, look at what Mike Leach did game number 1 for MSU, taking down the defending national champion, first time defending national champions lost, I don't know, since 98 or something, 99 with Michigan. Lane Kiffin got waxed by Florida, but at least his offense did something. Like, those guys have cachet to walk into a locker room and try to change the culture. And in the week one, I think most of those guys walked away probably thinking, all right, man, we're on the right track. Like Mike Norvell, I'm sorry, man. You talk about he took Memphis to the Cotton Bowl, and I'm not trying to diminish it. But I think for 19-year-old kids that came to Florida State, that came to either do something special with the first African-American coach at Florida State or come work and play for Jimbo Fisher and go to the NFL, like Mike Norvell coming in from Memphis is not going to move the needle for those kids. And I'm sure they tried to buy in, and I really was on board, and I still am on board with Mike Norvell trying to take a tough line approach with this team, coming in and trying to tell them, hey, this is not going to be easy. It's going to be the most difficult thing you've ever done. But, man, when you have nothing to show for it and you're going to keep losing games this season and these guys are going to start quitting on you, and, again, you're pulling from a recruiting class of kids from 2018 that most of them transferred out, was put together in 2 months' time. 2019, again, was coming off the worst season in this program's history. And then a 2020 class that you only had 2 months to put in. Man, all those ingredients, all that stuff, none of it works out if Chubba Purdy can't fix this. And I know it's putting a lot of responsibility on a true freshman kid that played in Arizona. But if he can come in, if he can maybe beat Pitt, if he can beat NC State, if he can beat Duke, if they can win 3 or 4 games to end the season, you do have a little bit of positive momentum to build off of. But, man, if this thing, if he doesn't work out and this thing goes 2-9, man, I don't know where the messaging, I don't know where the cachet, I don't know what Mike Norvell could do to win enough guys over in that locker room to get this thing turned over. Because, yeah, he's going to recruit his own. 2021 is going to be all him, but based off of what? Like a 2-9 season? How do you recruit off of that?
It's
that's
tough.
Like, it's. I really believe, man. Like, if Chubba can, if Chubba's as good as I think he can be, if he can give you a poor Sam Howell sort of a contribution as a true freshman, that gives the staff enough time, gives them enough cover to get some things figured out. But, man, if it doesn't work out with him, I don't know where you change things. I'm just worried, man, that this team is going to totally tune out Mike Norvell. It was kind of a bit of a miracle. They never really seemed to tune out Willie. They really didn't seem to tune him out until maybe last 3 games or so of 2019. They kind of still tried to play hard in 18, although they went and looked silly half the time against Clemson and Notre Dame. But I just don't know his message, his resume. I just don't know how that's going to ring out in a locker room that's didn't really come to play for him largely. And, he's talking tough, and they try to, they all think they did the right thing, Corey. Now, we can all say they didn't. They don't play with the requisite effort and all that kind of stuff, but they think they are. They think they've been doing that, and it's not paying off. That's dangerous. That's where these things really go.
Yeah,
south.
I mean, I think my counter to that is, you say that he can't. It's hard for him to move the needle in that locker room with the resume and everything else, which is fine. But I don't care about their needles, man. Their needles are broken. Like those guys in that locker room that have been there for 2 or 3 years, some of these guys are beyond repair. They're beyond. They aren't good enough. And I don't know if the young guys are good enough, but I know the veteran guys aren't good enough. So what other choice do they have? Like, they don't. His message doesn't resonate with them. Well, then don't play them. You'd rather play 50 guys that play hard and believe than some of those guys that just have the same things happen to them over and over again. I thought Warren Thompson was going to be a player. I'm telling you, folks, in practice, that kid moves like an NFL wide receiver, and he's done jack squat in 2 games other than draw targeting and have 2 critical drops. Then again, how much of that comes back to the quarterback? He is so hamstrung by what he's had to deal with at quarterback. Chubba breaking his collarbone was a huge blow. And it's bad luck. But it happened. And some could say, well, he made his own luck by making Chubba live. But I don't disagree with what he did.
Yeah.
But it was just bad luck that the kid that probably would have been the starter breaks his collarbone 3 weeks in, and now or 1 weekend really, and now has 2 weeks of practice total since August. So that's bad luck. But it is what it is where he is. But what else is there? I mean, it's not like a new coach is coming. So you've got to hope that this guy brings in players that play the way he wants to play. And Go from there.
But you're going to be like, so like, and again, this is for the sake of us having a podcast and talking about these things. I don't know how realistic this all is going to be. I'm not calling for his job. I'm just kind of pointing out the reality. I just don't know if this is not going to get better sooner than later. Then like, how do you continue to go on the same sort of track? Yeah. So say 2021. Somehow he does keep Luke Altmaier, although I'm not even going to say he's going to get Luke Altmaier because I think Alabama comes at you hot and heavy. If Mike Leach comes at you hot and heavy, and you're from Starkville, Mississippi, and FSU's gone 2-9, and you can talk about personal relationships all you want.
Is he from Starkville, Mississippi?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's where he plays high school football. So.
Yikes! Uh-oh.
It's going to be tough to pull him out there if you're not putting on. And you can be like, hey, listen, man, if you come here, these 3 games that we just put on tape for you, we will win these games if you're our quarterback. I mean, that's flattering. You believe in it, but then it's like, well, man, how about I just stay at home and then I'll, probably win 8 games here and I'll put up, 600 yards in my first game. Good grief. KJ Costello. Like, he did nothing at Stanford. Mike Leach takes him game 1. Why can't we get this sort of, we got 1/2 out of Kendall Browse with James Blackman. Good grief. But anyway, I mean, you're going to get all these freshmen, then like you're going to roll these guys out, as true freshmen in 2021 with a little sprinkle of sophomores from the 2020 class. Like, I understand, like, we're at the point now where it, unfortunately for, like, Willie, like, all right, Willie probably got too much of the blame for coaching, and I don't believe that, but I think a lot of people that listen to this might still have a soft spot for him. But, yeah, man, we're at the point now in this sort of intervention where it's like, yeah, it's the players. The players are not performing. But you kind of have what you have. And
so do we think that do we think it's just a crazy coincidence that these same players that got completely humiliated the last 2 years by Miami, Notre Dame, Florida, and Clemson are now being humiliated by Miami again? Like, now that's all Norvell's fault? Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is what they do. This is the program he took over. They lose close games, and they get blown out by good teams. So, no, after 2 games, nothing has changed. But it's, whatever. It's just, whatever. That's the end of the show. Whatever, guys. Whatever. Whatever Warchant. That's the name of the show now, because it's like, it's just going to be a long haul. It's just going to be a long haul.
Oh, look at that. Corey just muted himself and he was about to cough. Appreciate it. I'll have to edit that out now.
Well, no, and I was done. But I did cough, but it was also done. I was done talking. But, that's what we figured out, right? Like, I promise you folks, in August of next year when we're doing record predictions, the words 7 wins are not coming out of these lips. None, no chance. So hold me to that. Make me remember it. I might say something to the point of, man, if they play some close game, if they get lucky in some close games, play fourth quarter games, and win some coin flips, maybe 7 wins. But, man, look, you look at that schedule they have this year right now, it's hard to see 3. It's hard to see 3. So, especially if they play like they did Saturday, it's hard to see more than 1. So, that's just how and look, it's a weird year anyway. It's a COVID year. They still might even get to go to a bowl. So the bowl streak continues. It'll be up to 2. And but it's a rebuilding year, and it happens to be a pandemic year. And it is a bizarre situation where he did not get a spring. That is evident.
Oh, yeah.
No other teams got spring either. We understand that. But this was a first-year coach trying to figure out what he had, who was on his roster, and who he could depend on, and he did not get that opportunity. So that is a big deal. So now he's basically going through his spring practice now, and he's figuring out, oh, okay, yeah, no, he can't play at all, can he? That's what I thought, but now I know for sure.
Missouri first game under their new head coach, they put 19 up against Alabama. Now some of that was slop points. Ole Miss puts up 35 points their first game. I don't know how many points did Mississippi State put on LSU, but 600 yards. The guy set an SEC record for offensive yards in his first game coming off a pandemic. These guys are Mike Leach for sure putting in a new system. Lane Kiffin, I don't know how he's maybe a little more pro style than what Matt Luke was running with a more spread kind of Hugh Freeze offense. But I don't know. I guess maybe just culturally, Florida State was more broken, and I hate the culture thing. I really do.
But it's the truth because it's entitlement without. It's I don't know what the entitlement without any earned success, without any real reason to be entitled. Entitlement without the earning it. That's very ham-handed way of saying that. But I don't know that you have kids at Mississippi State, 4- and 5-star kids, that think they're God's gift to football.
No, you don't. Well, that's the problem with what he's inherited.
So that's what I'm saying. He is at a program that has kids that still think that they're a Knoll. They go to DBU. They're at DBU. They're the same thing as Jalen Ramsey and Derwin James. No, man. But they have that entitlement that comes with being a Florida State player and being a Florida State recruit and being a big-time recruit. Some of these guys were big-time recruits. They think they're better than they are. I don't know how many kids at Mississippi State think they're better than they are. I don't know how many kids at Mississippi State think, oh, man, that might be beneath me. Or whatever the problems that Florida – it's just a unique situation because Florida State was the best program in the country a half-decade ago. Not a half-century ago, a half-decade ago. Before that kick got blocked at Georgia Tech, they had won 30-something straight regular season games. That was 5 years ago. That's not that long ago. So when you're still on the Florida State roster, you were being recruited by that program. So you think you're better than you are. And Mike Leach and Lane Kiffin, God love those two programs. None of those guys have delusions of grandeur. And so I think that's part of what you're working with is guys that have been told they're better than they are because they get a lot of like how many Ole Miss recruits get the kind of attention that Florida State recruits get?
I mean, SEC
and I mean from
to those kids.
I mean, but from the media perspective, and from social media perspective, it's just different. It's just different. The program, the level of notoriety within the programs. I would guess. Unless you're from that state, Ole Miss and Mississippi State are backups. They're backup options in case one of the big boys comes calling. Much like Florida State's hotshot quarterback recruit or freshman, he was in a backup program until Florida State came calling. He was going to go to Louisville. By the way, what's up with your man Satterfield? Come on, man. What's going on here?
Tough loss against Miami.
Hey, he's not.
Twice. You let Miami beat him twice.
They're not fired up. They're not fired up there about him right now either. And we both think he can coach. Just these things take time. Rebuilds take time. I think we got ahead of ourselves because of star rankings when these kids were signed. The fact that some of them are on an NFL list, thinking, okay, this talent is such that it might be a quicker fix than normal. Nope, it's not. It's so systemic. It's ingrained in this program.
Well, to your point, man, what concerns me, and listen, this is like my analogy here when you're talking about.
I feel like we're on each other's couches. Like I'm laying down on a couch and you're laying down on a couch, and we got to talk this out, man. Yeah, we just got to get it out in the open.
We're almost done, everybody. I promise. It's like I am concerned about what Mike Norvell had to inherit. You talk about the roster, talk about the locker room. That's what I was trying to talk about. I don't know whether or not his sort of cachet, if his voice is something that's going to resonate with the kind of player that comes to Florida State versus the kid that's at Memphis. Because, the kid at Mississippi State, he probably wanted to go to Alabama. But, man, he's so happy to be able to play SEC football at Mississippi State or Ole Miss. So, like, for me, it's like Mike Norvell's a guy who, like, he can drive a pontoon boat through anything, man. Like if you had a pontoon boat and you had to get from point A to point B, there's probably no better person than Mike Norvell to get your pontoon boat from point A to point B. Mike Leach can do it. Mike Leach is great with a pontoon boat, man. Put him in the middle of Pullman, Washington. He'll win. Lubbock, Texas, not a problem. Lane Kiffin, doesn't matter. You throw him anywhere, man. He'll figure out a way to scheme up and get you some points. Man, Florida State's a yacht. I don't know how many people out there, and this is not a knock at Mike Norvell, it's just the reality of it, man. I don't know how many people are built to come to this program day one and flip it. And we were hoping that he could.
Yeah.
We were hoping that Willie could. He can't. Now, how much time is he going to get? These people that talk about 19 more games, I don't think it's going to look anywhere nearly as bad game 21
let's hope.
As it did this other night. The one thing I will say, and the last sort of hot take thing here, when we got out of 18, there was a little bit of talk of like, hey, man, you're going to have to maybe shake up some coordinators. And Willie did. He went and got Kendall Browse. He thought he was going to get Jim Levitt. That's why they kind of maybe put that whole 3-4 nonsense into play. Man, if this defense does not get better, and I don't know how, I don't see how and where they're going to get better, I would hope that he might look and explore it at figuring out a way to bolster that spot. I don't know. The defense played every bit as bad as we probably thought they were going to. If you were realistic about the way they played against Georgia Tech and you lined it up against Miami, it kind of that's the way it was going to play out. And if they can't get better, you would have to figure out that that's probably one of the things you would change because you're the offensive guy. You're not going to change your offense. And I hate talking about taking people's jobs in week number 2. But again, that growth and that hosed them too, man. The bye week in week number 2 was a terrible, terrible thing. That's about the only excuse I probably will legitimately get on a table and yell about. But I just
if they could have just flipped the Jacksonville State and Miami games,
that would.
I mean, then you're talking about it's probably 30-30 in the fourth quarter against the Canes. If they could have just gotten that extra. But no, that's true. And it sounds like an excuse. Maybe it is to an extent. But you go from just a ridiculous season opening loss to then a week off where you can't get any better at all. And then your coach catches COVID, so he's not even at practice or at the game. And then you go down to Miami. And what I thought might happen. It's like, our head coach isn't even here, man. This is a COVID game. It's 12,000 people in the stands. Well, maybe we don't have to play that hard. It doesn't feel like a real game, so we won't treat it like a real game. Oh, touchdown. There's another one. Oh, there's another one. It's a weak-minded team right now. Doesn't mean it's going to stay weak-minded, but that is a big, big deal to get a team that does not believe in itself, that does not believe in its teammates, may not even believe in its coaches, and start to believe. They're starting to play like they believe. But, going back to your pontoon boat analogy, so remember when I was talking about how Willie had shoved everything in the ocean?
Okay, all right.
Imagine if you're struggling to survive in the ocean, like you're swimming and trying to get people's attention because you're about to drown.
That's like a top 3 nightmare for me, probably. Like just flailing in the ocean.
And nobody around. There's 40 of you or 85 of you just flailing around in the ocean. No boat in sight. You're all going to drown or get eaten by sharks. And then all of a sudden you see a pontoon boat. Do you say to yourself, man, I mean, I would have preferred a yacht, but so I'm just going to stay in the water. Or do you hop your butt on the pontoon boat? Right now, Florida State just needs to be the pontoon boat. It can dock in the harbor and find a yacht eventually. Right now, it's splashing around in the ocean with nothing. So a pontoon boat sounds mighty nice. Plus, I like pontoon boats.
I love pontoon boats. If
they're
I could
the
buy a
best.
boat, I'd buy a pontoon boat, literally.
Oh, they're the best. They're so relaxed.
Yeah.
Kick your feet up. You don't have to go fast. You just kind of cruise. You can throw frisbees off and have kids go out and catch them in the lake. It's all good stuff. Basically, what I'm saying is, we have a new sponsor this week. It's Johnson Pontoon Boats out of Johnsonville, Tennessee. Hey, you need to get on the water, but you don't have a ton of cash? Get yourself a pontoon boat. Johnson Pontoon Boats. Anyway, I've lost my mind. It might have to do with I only got 3 hours of sleep last night or on Saturday night, and it's catching up with me. But yeah, so yes, Mike Norvell's first job, to continue with this crazy analogy, get to safe harbor, man. Get on anything that can stay. What do they call it when you can stay on the water? When you don't, it's not going to sink. Whatever.
Upright, I don't know.
I can't remember the word. But
a float down.
That wasn't even what I was looking for. But they can just cruise on the water and then eventually get better. But right now you're just looking for anything you can hang on to so you don't drown. And because you're in a mess, man. You are in a mess for a multitude of reasons. And we don't know that Mike Norvell can turn this thing around. I don't want you guys to hear me talking and think that I'm saying for sure he's the right guy and he can do it. But number one, he's going to be here a while, and you're going to have to exercise patience. I think Saturday night proved that to all of us. Patience is going, whether you want to or not, it's the reality. I don't even know how you can't get worked up about all these games. You're going to give yourself a coronary. You just have to accept that this is one of the worst teams in the country right now. It just is. I don't know that Miami beats many other teams in the country by 42 points. But there is some hope, and I wrote about it on Saturday in the sense that, Miami was terrible last year. No, Derek King's not transferring to Tallahassee, but things can flip kind of quickly. Yeah. Not to the point where you're going to contend for championships, but they can flip. That was a roster that wasn't used to doing anything, and now they're 3-0 and number 8 in the country in 1 year. In 9 months, they've made that flip. They got some great transfers. Hit the transfer market if you have to. I don't know what Miami does to get these transfers, but go hire the guy that gets the transfers to Miami and bring them. Whatever you have to do. But that can happen, number one. But you're gonna have to take some lumps, and you're gonna have to see what kind of program this guy can build. What kind of program, not what kind of 2020 team he can build, because we all know that's made out of mold. That you can't build from this group. But what kind of program he can build moving forward. And it's just going to be a long haul, and I don't know that he can do it. Again, I don't want to sit here and say, guys, trust me, this guy's got what it takes. I believe in him. I believe in him a little less after that debacle Saturday night, but I do think he is a good football coach, and I think he has a chance to make this a very good football program. But it's certainly not a guarantee, obviously.
Over-unders from this previous week. Tamorian Terry catches 7.5. I took the over. Corey took the under.
I won that one, baby.
I mean, he literally
how many arguments? How many sideline arguments?
Single pass.
So he was hurt, though, right? I mean, they said that before the game. That we didn't know that, by the way. That was kept hush hush. But Herb Street said it right when the game started that he had been dealing with an injury, dating back to the Georgia Tech game, which we can all assume probably goes back to maybe that hit he took. Which, maybe it's ribs. Maybe there's something in the midsection that he's just not himself. But, yes, he was not a factor at all. And then got taken out for the rest of the game after getting in an argument with Dugans for getting that unsportsmanlike penalty. Well, the offsetting.
Yeah, the offset.
Which I was like, he ran a terrible route. He wasn't even involved in the play. But the guy, I don't have a problem with him, grabbing a guy's face mask if the guy's going to grab his face mask. So it wasn't that big a deal, but his performance was still pretty gross.
The second one on the over-under was number of FSU quarterback snaps by a player not named James Blackman, 11.5. We both took the over. FSU's rushing average, 3.9.
What was it?
Rodemaker had 10 dropbacks.
Oh, yeah. And then Travis had 4. Yeah, they crushed it, yeah. Travis had more than 4, right?
It says he only had 4 dropbacks.
Oh, it was just snaps, though. He must have taken 15 snaps.
He took 15. Look at that. Round the nose.
Booyah. But, hey, by the way, I don't know what happened. We don't know if he's going to be available. He's a gifted runner. He has a knack, and this isn't how what you build your quarterback position out of, but he has a knack for even if there's 2 guys there, and there's not a lot of positive yards, he usually finds a way to split them and get 6 and fall forward. And he's got wiggle, and he's got a nice burst. Got to keep him on the field, though, and script the whole game, but instead of just the first drive. But I like him. I think he's a competitor. I don't know if he's a good enough passer to.
He's a good complementary piece, I think.
Oh, but yeah, I wanted to say we never got back to that. The whole thing with that crazy trick play is, look, I know it was a dumb. You can say eat it. Well, good grief, then you're 2nd and 22, or 2nd and 30. That was going to be a 20-yard loss if he eats it. So it makes sense to try to throw it away. Number one, it would have been intentional grounding probably anyway because there was nobody over there and he wasn't going to get it to the line of scrimmage. But it just was an awful play. But I don't mind him. If you take the sack there, the drive's over anyway. And if the drive's over there, the game's over there, and as it was. So that proved prophetic because wasn't it 21-3?
I think
it was 21-3. They got the ball at the 38 after that crazy miscue by Miami, and you're like, oh, all right, well, call this crazy play. If it somehow works, it's 21-10, and maybe we got a ball game. Didn't work, and the game was over.
Florida State rushing average 3.9 yards was the over-under line. It was a number. I took the over. You took the under. It was 4.5. It was actually 6.8 if you removed all the sacks. So.
How about that, by the way? Yeah. So one positive, and there ain't many. This might literally be the only one. My man Toa Feelies might have a chance to be something.
Let's not get carried away. I mean, he looked good.
Yeah, no, I mean, hey, what are you? Okay, well, he's not any good either.
Well, I'm saying he's not.
Get rid of all these
Cook.
bums.
This program needs a savior, man.
Hey, come on. The savior is in Norvell. You got to believe he's only 0-1 in games he's been at. So just leave it right there.
Hey, man, I undersold Toafili for sure, and he's surprised.
But it wasn't.
He's done good.
But what I've liked is, yes, he looked good at the end. He ran pretty hard. And he looked good at the end against Miami's second stringers. He also showed a burst in both games on the first drive. So that, to me, is a positive, that it's not just coming against second and third teamers. He's showing a little different level to his burst and explosiveness than the other running backs, even against the starters. So moving forward, I think he's going to be a nice player, a nice piece for this offense.
The other over-under, we got a couple more. Alex Mastromano, punting average 45.5. We both said over. We were both way wrong. He didn't even average 40.
He was terrible. Yeah, he was terrible in that game.
He looked nervous. The first punt he had like a real tight shot of his eyes. It didn't even look like him. Like he looked quite nervous.
What are you nervous for, man? You don't even understand the rivalry. You didn't
grow
up with Miami, Florida State.
We both took the over on that. We're both incorrect. De'Aaron King rushing yards 52.5. We both took the over. We were correct. King
what do you have?
For 65 yards.
And when you take away the sack, if you take away all the sack yardage, what would he have run for?
That I don't know. That doesn't.
That was a joke.
It was a joke. All right, thanks.
Yeah, it was still 65 yards.
And the official total points scored 54. You obviously all know the math. We both took the under. We're both wrong on that. So we're level. We're level again, Corey.
Okay, good.
No,
good.
Actually, no. I'm still one up on you. We're level for this week. I'm one up on you from week one.
So Florida State didn't get a sack in that game, did they?
Nope.
I mean, come on, man. Good night.
Nope. 5 tackles for loss, though. 5 tackles for loss.
Whatever.
Shout out to
Mari Gaynor. I like Mari Gaynor. Mari Gaynor can play a little bit. Steven Diggs, I think, can be something. Asante had a good game, though it didn't matter. Jarian Jones had that huge pass breakup in the fourth quarter.
Ooh, doggy.
That was big time. We needed the finger wag after that, Jarian.
That's right.
It was only 45-10. You never know. So that was a big time play. But yeah, that defense is just abysmal. Abysmal. But hey, nothing says they can't get better.
It was like Jarian Jones wasn't even around here last year, and he's doing. Just like these aren't even guys that were like polluted by the stink of Florida State the last few years. But I digress. Shout out to Asante. I'm pretty sure he played the most snaps out of anybody on the defense.
Oh, did he?
72 out of the 89. Yeah, it was him. 72 snaps. Look at that.
Who graded the best on the defense?
Starters, Renardo Green. Brendan Gant was higher than him, but Renardo Green as a starter was him, and then Asante, and then Robert Cooper third, but he got hurt after only 16 snaps. So hopefully he's fine. But that hurts. Obviously, your defensive line is not playing nearly as well as you thought they were, and Cooper, he's going to be clubbed up for a while, I would assume.
Man, and here's the thing. I don't necessarily think that the Florida State defensive tackles played poorly. I don't. Miami never really even tried to run the ball up the middle. They're like, look, man, we're not going to even bother with that. We're going to get our quarterback in the shotgun. We're going to run sweeps to the right if we have to, or we're just going to sit back and pick you apart because you can't rush us. You can't get near us. And when you do blitz, you're going to leave somebody wide open in the place where he just vacated every single time. So I don't want to sit there and say that not the defensive line, the interior played poorly. It just if that's going to be the game plan, somebody else has to go make plays, man. You can't expect 330-pound guys to go tackle De'Aaron King 6 yards behind the line of scrimmage. It's not happening. Somebody else has to go make plays.
Shout out to Nolfin Rob and NolDoc09. They both got 5 out of 6 correctly. You are the grand prize winners or top prize winners. You get the T-shirt as well as the 5 free chicken fingers and a salad. RB1 Fish, Kev Knoll, and Heartland Knoll are the runners-up. You will get the 5 free chicken fingers and the salad. Instructions are on the travel council, but DM me, email me your real legitimate name so I can put it on the envelope so I don't look like I'm mailing something that's illegal. And let me know your T-shirt size, Nolfin Rob and NolDoc09. They're back to normal. I think Mike Norvell is going to actually be in his office. We'll speak to him at noon. If not, I think he'll be back on Tuesday. But we'll speak to the coordinators, Papuchis, Fuller, Dillingham and Mike Norvell at noon. And we'll have that sort of information that we'll pass along from there available at warchant.com. Corey will be live transcribing it. And we'll be back with another show for you folks tomorrow as well. So you'll live through the Miami game. Hopefully this wasn't nearly as painful. They'll get better. Brighter days ahead, right, Corey?
Brighter days are ahead. Hopefully we provided you a little levity in the middle of madness. Shout out to the Falcons defense. Again, always a pleasure to see that. I don't know if you know this, Aslan, but
Maybe
in the last
Dan Quinn. I'll take Dan Quinn.
Hey, dude, he's going to be available very, very soon. I don't know if you know this, though. This will be a good stat for your new defensive coordinator at Florida State. There had been no team in the last 20 years that had given up two 15-point fourth-quarter leads in the same season. And the Falcons have done it back-to-back weeks. So making history in Atlanta. Also, the Braves' postseason starts this week. So send some good thoughts my way so they can win at least a game before they get ousted. I just want to see one playoff win. I know they're not going to win the World Series. That doesn't happen. Good things don't happen to Atlanta sports fans. So I'm not expecting that. But I'd like them to see win one game in the postseason. And that'd be a good October.
I saw the stat about in the previous 440 times that a NFL team scored 39 points and did not turn the ball over.
Yeah.
The teams were 440-0.
Yep, until last week when the Falcons lost to the Cowboys.
It could
so
always
again, he's
be
making
worse,
history.
It could always be worse.
That's right. That's right.
I got a friend who's a Jets fan and a Florida State fan, so.
Oh, my gosh.
At least I got the Lakers. Let's go. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for listening, folks. It's been Wake Up Warchant, proudly presented by Zaxby's Indescribably Good.
Warchant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. Warchant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WARCHANT30. That's WARCHANT30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WARCHANT30. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.